welcome everybody to our as yet unnamed podcast. We are coming to you from Neuse River CrossFit in Raleigh, North Carolina. My name is Nathan Head. I'm one of the coaches here. This is John Prescott, head owner and coach and programmer and just all around good dude.
3 heads.
All around good dude. So
the podcast of the unnamed.
The podcast of the unnamed.
Feels like a Game of Thrones episode.
It's just an army podcast.
It's got potential. I think we might be leaning towards that.
Yeah. So,
but it still feels like a Game of Thrones. The unnamed.
The unnamed.
Yeah, we'll call ourselves the unnamed.
So anyway, welcome. We're really glad that you all are here and that you chose to take some time out of your day to talk with us. So feel free to check this out on Instagram, go to Facebook, all sorts of stuff. We've got a website coming, so feel free to check that out. You will see Christy Hagan behind us. She's one of our badasses that are here in the gym working out.
Because the gym doesn't close.
It does not close.
You're open. Always open.
Yeah. So John, tell us a little bit about you and just who you are and what you're doing and your vision and how you got started. Tell us a little bit about it.
I don't have very good vision. I have to wear contacts. But I think so you know, we talked a lot about this with the coaches and sort of our own membership. And the finding is, you know, so there's always a lot of questions that we're not really getting the answers to, you know. And I think the construction of a CrossFit class is awesome, but it's limiting, you know. There's always that time constraint. A lot of classes are run on the hour. I've seen some gyms do hour-and-a-half classes, but even to my mindset where, you know, I try to get about 2 hours of training in a day, and I'm still being coached and talking to other people about how I can improve my, you know, my long game and how to do things. I'm still finding myself spending more time researching and learning and figuring out. So it kind of dawned on me that, you know, if it's happening within just our group, you know, our subsect of community, then there's got to be a conversation that's being had in all the gyms, right? So I think the objective here is to really take what the athletes' needs are and just slow down the opportunity to answer those questions and sort of get a feel for what will make our athletes the best athletes for themselves. And if we're not, as you know, as a culture, as coaches, as owners, doing that, then it's a missed opportunity, not just from a business perspective, but as a perspective of what you're actually capable of doing as a coach, as a head coach, as a programmer, as a media marketer. As we know, you know, once you go into the CrossFit industry for a while until your business is built up, you're the jack of all trades, you know. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that, but I think always the number one priority is the athlete. You know, that's why we're here. That's why people go into CrossFit in the first place. We want to open a gym because we want to affect change. But when you limit that change by time, which is a real factor, it's what makes CrossFit great. It's a very efficient way to spend your time and maximize results, right? You know, I know I've never been successful at going to a regular gym and just working out, you know, and I could spend 3 hours in a gym.
It's awful.
It just doesn't, there's no flow for me. I mean, apart from the fact that I'm a very social creature, I think there's something lost in that. Not only your output will be less, your motivation will be less, but your direction isn't that great. And unless you're educated on movement, which Instagram has turned everybody into a specialist. The internet, thank you internet. You've made everybody specialists in every field. Yeah. I know everything about everything because I saw it on Instagram. I think if we really just take the time to find the small pieces that make big impacts, you know. It's always that one sentence that a coach says to you that all of a sudden everything clicks, you know, and that's a big thing for me. I'm a very visual learner. Some people are very auditory. Some people like to read. I'm very visual. So if you can demonstrate something to me, I likely will have a better conceptualization of how to do it. Right. But a lot of people aren't like that. Right. You know, they need tactile cues just as much as they need, you know, the auditory. Well, what should I do? And explain to me, you know. So that's the objective, I think, here with the podcast on kind of a grand scale. Right. But then also we want to know our people. Right. You know, who's here, who's coming and going.
So that's a perfect segue. Last week you were in Ontario,
Collingwood, Ontario.
In Collingwood, Ontario last week. You're going to be in Baltimore this next weekend.
Competing this weekend.
In a strongman competition.
Yep.
You're a gym owner.
Yes.
You have talked to a lot of gym owners. You set up other events at other gyms.
Yeah.
We've done some stuff with John Dill over at Sua Sponte.
Great guys.
We have done you've done a lot of different stuff in a lot of different places. So as you've been in some of these other gyms, what's your take on the way that people program for their athletes in all these different places?
Programming is fascinating. You know, I think that one of the best messages that I ever have for an athlete who's never done CrossFit before, or maybe shopping around for gyms, right? You have to find a place that aligns with sort of the way that you think, spiritually and physically, right? You walk in the door, how are you met? Are you met with open arms, or is it just a sales pitch? Because I can't be bought. My sales pitch is either you like what we're doing here, or maybe there's another place for you, and that's fine. Like, I look at it more as an opportunity to say we are the best because ... But don't stop here. You know, go to the other gym, see what they're about, because they might be better for you. I don't know what you need. You know, I just met you. You just walked in the door. And, you know, we're going to always take time to ascertain what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish when you come in here? And I think when you look at it from a programming perspective, one of the things that we have to look at when we're walking into a gym for the first time is the programming something that I can foresee myself enjoying? And that's why I always offer a free week trial. Like, come in, see who we are. I think it's foolish to, you know, when you sign up for a Globo gym, you kind of know what you're getting. Like, the expectation is there. But when you're signing up for a more personal experience where the coaches are going to be more involved innately and not just the programming, but how you move and what you do and how you scale and how you need to be more comfortable with that. And I think you have to get your feet wet with their programming. Even if you're not a CrossFitter, you know, my free week trial, what we do is we prove to you that CrossFit is infinitely scalable. Anybody can come in and you can do it, right? It's the coach's responsibility to make sure that that experience is met with your expectations. And when you come into my gym, the thing that you're going to find is you're always going to be met with that open sort of, come in, who are you, tell us a little bit about why you're here, you know, and we'll do that right in front of, I mean, you've seen it 1,000 times. I'll stop a class of 30 people and be like, time out. This is Beth. Beth has never done CrossFit before, but she's here to visit us. So make her feel like she's part of our community. And, you know, not to get too far off topic though, on the conversation of the programming, the ideology I think has to be, there has to be a progression, right? When we think about what the body systems do and how they work and how they operate, the best programming is the thought-provoking programming that not only takes the audience that they're teaching into account, you know, so my gym is not Sua Sponte's gym, it's not North Raleigh's CrossFit, it's Neuse River CrossFit, and that's great. You know, you have to identify with your community on how you program, and as you continue to raise the bar, you're going to find, and this has been one of the greatest perks about doing this now for almost 8 years, is seeing how I've increased my programming capacity just by education and learning and talking to people who've been doing this for years. I'm not a scientist. Some of the best programming in the world's already been done. It's being done by unbelievably great programming method. You know, look at Misfit, look at Bergeron, look at the Outlaw Way, you know, look at the Hand Plan. These guys are masterful in their art. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't look at what they're doing and seeing how they're doing things and understanding more about body systems. But I also take into account who my audience is and what their goals are. And that's why the first question you're ever going to get when you walk in the door here is, what's your goal? And please don't tell me it's weight loss or weight gain, because everybody I've ever met on earth wants to either lose or gain weight, always. Let's move past that. That's not a goal. That's an objective that we're going to complete. Let's figure out what you want to do with that when you get there. Like, that's the bigger message, you know?
For sure. So I saw you had written something on the whiteboard the other day, and it was specifically talking about how mechanics kind of trumps everything. And you had kind of this whole progression. Walk us through some of that progression.
I give a lot of credit to, you know, the Chasing Excellence podcast. If you're not listening to Ben Bergeron, you're doing yourself a disservice. 25-minute podcast, really thought-provoking. Yeah, get into the leadership mindset of how to become a better, not just owner, but coach. And he brought a really good thing out onto the table for me. And I think it's something that we were innately doing, but didn't really have that rubber stamp on it to say, practice, train, compete. And that coincides so directly with mechanics, consistency, intensity. You know, we want to take the ability to practice first, figure out the mechanics of what it is that we're doing, figure out that we're doing it the right way, and can we replicate that? So let's put the consistency factor into training now. You know, take a workout like Grace, you know, 30 clean and jerks for time. Very simple by design. And what I always find is the last 5 to 7 reps are the ones that go out the window and turn into garbage.
That's right.
So I think what we want to avoid is that. So let's figure out, what do we need to do in order to keep you under, say, a certain threshold window. Let's say we set the target window at 5 minutes, and that's what we want you to accomplish. Your goal today is to be a sub 5-minute Grace. So you know you can't do that at 135, but you can do 30 clean and jerks at 135. But I want to hit a higher stimulus today for you. So let's put it down to 105. And let's really cruise through the reps. But what I want to see is perfection. I want to see your reps cycled perfectly. I want to see your timing cycled perfectly so that you have a better conceptualization of not just the projection of the workout, but how well you can move under duress. So then we go back into mechanics. You know, there's no value in movement if you're not performing it correctly. The best Olympic weightlifters in the world, if they don't provide the perfect mechanics for those heavy 1 rep maxes, they're never going to hit them. That's right. You know, so if you kind of coincide that with your 1 rep max in a WOD, and we'll say it's a Grace or a Fran or a Helen or a Karen, and that's your 1 rep max is your time, right? That's my 1 rep max. For this time workout, my 1 rep max is, well, how are we going to bring that time and bring that threshold into a higher standing? Right. And that always breaks into practice. Spending more time in and out of the gym, not with a clock. Right. You know, we just did a social media post today about 3 of our athletes who are just awesome athletes, you know, Jesse and Lee and Tabby, and they were practicing handstand. I was here last night with them until 8:30, and they just said, do you mind if we stick around and practice handstands? And my answer is absolutely, 100%. I want you to take all the time that you want, and I will help you work on that skill with you because you're putting the work into it. And then when I program, you know, 200 foot of a handstand walk into a workout, instead of it being something that you loathe, it's something you look forward to, you know, and that's where the practice comes in. And I think a lot of times the mindset in a workout is we're going to try and practice this movement in a workout, right? So one of my favorite things to do, because again, we're back at that 1 hour window, right? We're limiting the amount of time that we can expose ourselves, is let's just use Annie, for example. Annie's 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 double under sit-ups. Why don't we, today for the WOD, say if you can't do double unders, you're going to do 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 missed attempts. And while you may not have RX'd the workout, I now know for about 10 to whatever long it takes you, you've done skill work. Right. And that to me is
intentional skill work.
Intentional skill work that you can't avoid doing now. Right. Like, you can't tell me you don't have time. This is your workout. And oftentimes I'm met with mostly positivity. There's always a few people who are more concerned with their workout time. Well, that's going to take forever. I love that line. Yeah. Well, I don't have anywhere to be. I'm coaching the next class. You can stay as long as you want. Right. As a matter of fact, if you want to just work for the next 40 minutes on double unders and not do a single sit-up, I'm good with that too. You know, and let's see what you're doing. Let's try to work on some skill development for you. So I really do. You know, CrossFit did a fantastic job in the L1 of making you understand that before we introduce that high value of what intensity can give you, before we do that, we need to understand what those basics are. The real simple things. You know, a squat is a squat is a squat, but what's a squat look like after a 17-minute AMRAP? And are we still getting that same range of motion, movement, quality? Because that's going to have a longer effect than the workout time that you're worried about getting today. And that's what we're talking about, right? Like fitness for life, not fitness for now. And it's like synonymous with our gym. We say it all the time in here. It's we are here for life, not for now. And you may do CrossFit for a year and you want to go join jiu-jitsu, great. You're still doing activity. That to me is a win, right? My goal is not to see how many people I can monetize my services off of. It's how many people can I affect positively. So whether they stay or they go, they had that experience that changed their perception of what is capable. That's awesome. And that's the big thing. So we always want to baseline it with mechanics and you know, kudos to CrossFit for really driving that message home. Like, this is what we need to fix. Mechanics, then intensity, or consistency, and then intensity. So it's great. It's a great model to think about. And I think as a coach, you know, when we're talking about scalability in a workout, and you know someone can do the weight, but it's going to look like a disaster. It's going to look like a train wreck, and you're sitting in the corner. You're not giving them. That's not leading your crew. That's letting them fall. You know, and that's giving them the opportunity to post a good workout time, but not a projectable workout time that they can actually decrease.
Well, and I heard you at one point say to an athlete, when I had first gotten here, and you said basically, we're not doing you any favors by telling you to lift 400 pounds off the ground and putting you in the hospital, because then you're not here.
Right.
And you're not actually,
an injured athlete, for the record, for business perspective, is a bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help us. Which actually leads me into the next thing. You were coaching one of the athletes a couple of days ago. This dude's a fire breather. I mean, he's a big guy, really, really strong. Comes out of the gate 110 miles an hour all the time. And you looked at him and you said, look, we've got to shift the mindset a little bit here, away from you're competing every time you come into a WOD.
Right.
To let me train at a certain level so that I can then, when I'm in a WOD, turn it on and my capacity is
Yeah.
bigger. So let's talk a little bit about how do you shift some of those mindsets, specifically for the CrossFit athlete, but really for anybody?
I think it really anchors on preconceived mindsets anyways, right? So you look at the CrossFit games, you go to a CrossFit competition, and you see these guys, and they're just murdering these workouts, right? But what you don't see, what you fail to recognize, and this was my own social media post yesterday, is the amount of failure you have to accomplish in order to achieve success far surpasses the success by light years, right? But that failure has to happen with intent, right? You don't just go into a workout. When we start CrossFit, we fail with no intent. We don't understand what it means to you know, I was 265 pounds when I started doing CrossFit. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker.
Right.
My intent was to not die. Literally, my intent was to live from the next moment to the next moment.
Yeah.
But as I began to really dial into, well, how can I take 20 seconds off of my frame? And it always boiled down to movement.
Oh, sure.
End of the day, it always boiled down to movement and breathing. So those are the two big things, movement and breathing.
Don't stop breathing, you won't stop moving.
And so when we talked to Carl, I think what we really had to instill in him, you know, here's a guy who's snatching 255. He's got an unbelievable squat, deadlifting over 500, super strong human being. But when it comes to that conditioning piece, the mindset is just like a 1-rep max. I'm going to destroy it. Well, if we can actually teach you how to dial it back and conceptualize where that 65 to 85% land is for you, where you live in that, you're going to be far more capable. And then it's not just because you're shaving seconds off your workout. You're conceptualizing how to create more capacity on the long run, right? I now know that, you know, 100 burpees takes me like 5.5 minutes, but that's at a full out sprint, right? So how long is it going to take me to do these 100 burpees on top of the 25 clean and jerks, on top of the sandbag lunges, on top of this? And how can I break that up? And my goal as a coach when an athlete comes in is for them to look at the workout and already know within 30%, 20% when they're going to finish. Like, if it's not an AMRAP, how long is it going to take me to finish this? Because I know how long it takes me to row 300 meters. I know what it feels like to do 40 unbroken kettlebell swings. How can I put that into this workout and create a more, and with guys like Carl, they come in and they're like, I need to just beat the sandbags off of this workout. And what happens is the exact same thing. He beats the sandbags off the workout for about 30 seconds.
30 seconds,
and then he's sucking wind like he's 7,000 feet up and he can't breathe. And the conversation with him the other day was fantastic because I think it was really finally a chance where he's like, I understand what you're saying now. You know, I don't need to come in here and try to win every day. I need to come in here and try to improve my capacity every day. And every workout that I do will lead me to an improved amount of capacity. So you don't leave here feeling defeated, you leave here feeling accomplished. And that's a way better feeling. I mean, nothing feels better than PRing, in my opinion, except for accomplishing something that you didn't think you could do. And like Karen's a great example. I hate that workout. I hate it. It's my least favorite workout. Now, it's one of my favorites. Because I took the time to really build the skill into it, how to breathe, how to cycle, how to move the ball well. And the side effect is a better time. Not because I'm any stronger, but because I have a better conceptualization of how to pace that workout.
Well, and that, as we kind of wrap everything up, that actually segues perfectly into kind of, I think, what we ultimately wanted to go today, which is really more about, it's less about what can I do right now, and it's more about long term. You know, you had mentioned Malcolm Gladwell. Tell us a little bit about that as we kind of
I think, you know, if you haven't heard the quote now, it takes 10,000 hours to become, you know, I wouldn't say a specialist in something. And when you break that down, you know, let's just assume for a second that you can average 2 hours a day, right, 5 days a week. It will take you 19 years to become awesome at something. So I think if we kind of put that in our brain and think, all right, well, I'm not going to become perfect at snatching today. It's not going to happen. But what I can do is I can find a small place for improvement, a little small nuanced part of this movement that is causing me so much strife. And if it's, I have a fast raising hip every single time, so I pick the butt up, or I have an early arm bend. Well, your coach is going to pull you aside, a good coach is going to pull you aside and say, here's a few drills that you can take with you to practice. And then, next thing you know, you're looking around the gym It's not snatch day. People have a PVC pipe in their hand and they're practicing snatches.
That's right.
And you're thinking, now you're putting in those extra hours, you know, because, you know, the thing about CrossFit is we have an encyclopedia of movements that we use on a regular basis. The problem is you don't repeat them every day. First of all, if you did, those body domains would be destroyed and you wouldn't be able to move. But secondly, it would become boring, which is, I think, one of the biggest fulcrums for CrossFit. It's not boring, it's fun. You come in and you're like,
you walk in, something's different.
Today's a modification of a workout called Flight Simulator.
Oh, it was,
It's hard.
Yeah.
You know, you're just jumping rope.
It's not easy.
But if you trip in my version, you do burpees.
Yeah.
People probably going to do a lot of burpees today.
Yeah.
You know, so you change the stimulus, you have the same workout, where's the expectation?
Right.
It's that today I get to practice double unders for 20 minutes.
Right.
And now that 20 minutes turns into, well, I've practiced double unders for 5 hours this month. Not, I can't do double unders.
I came in and did one workout with double unders.
Right, exactly, right? So, because you can't program all of those movements every day, or it just wouldn't be as fun. So we, as coaches, as owners, as programmers, have to create, I love creating warm-ups that have movements we don't use. It's one of my favorite things to do. Because what it is a precursor. You know, a couple weeks ago, we did a warm-up with Turkish get-ups.
Yeah.
And then guess what we did? We did Turkish get-ups.
And they were fantastic.
And they were great. And now all of a sudden, where people would just take the time during the workout to learn how to do it, 3 days earlier, they're doing the skill work, then we're doing the workout, and then it's fresh. It's something that they have a little bit more understanding
Well,
about.
like you said, I came in like a couple of days later, and I saw people on the floor prior to working out, working on their Turkish get-ups.
Just because.
Because they're like, I didn't do it very well the other day, I want to get better at it today.
Absolutely. So I think that, you know, the 10,000 hour rules, it's pretty tough to get in CrossFit. You know, I don't think you're going to be, and that's the thing, right? Like, the winners of CrossFit are, except for Matt Frazier, because he just wins everything, the winners of CrossFit are the law of averages, right? You don't have to be great at everything. You have to be pretty good at everything.
Right.
So now, everyone wants to be great at everything. That's a mindset that's hard to shift. And, you know, as coaches, I think our responsibility is to dial that back and put the perspective. Take the tunnel view away, take a wide angle lens, and look at it from this perspective. You know, let's not do 50 double unders in the set for you because you're going to struggle, but you're getting double unders. Let's do 10. And then you're going to be able to do 20 next week. And that's how we want to sort of progress that. So I definitely think the 10,000 hour thing is an interesting way to approach it and really be humbled about what you can, what you can't, and what you should and should not be doing when you practice and when when you work out.
Well, and it's a good thing for us as coaches to have that in our minds as we're coaching our athletes.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to see, because you said something the other day, you were like, he's military, he's going to come in, he's going to do exactly what you you tell him to do. Like, he's not going to flinch, but you need to be aware of what his capacity is and help him scale that so that
you don't kill him.
Right, that's right.
Because we don't want to kill our members.
We don't want to do that.
Bad for business.
Bad for business. So
keep your people healthy. That's the best thing you could ever do, right?
So anyway, well, that wraps it up for us today. John Prescott, episode 1 is in the books.
Many more to come.
We're going to be doing this a lot. Really want you to check it out on Instagram. It's also going to be on iTunes.
Post up your questions too. This is an interactive podcast. What we really want to do is outreach to our people outside of that circle, out of our gym, in our gym. And what are your questions? What are things that you don't really understand that you wish you knew more about? Whether it's movement, whether it's the psychology behind exercise. It doesn't really matter. There's no bad question because I think that's what makes this sport so interesting. The hyper-dynamic aspect of what it really is and what it represents.
Right. And so, and again, like, I mean, at all levels of all this stuff. I mean, if you're adaptive, moving all the way up into if you're competitive, we really welcome your questions, your thoughts, your comments. So please post up. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. But until then, we're going to sign off.
May the force be with you.
Yes, we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.
Wake